hamburgers lined up. I'll make you a hamburger. How many do you want? I was like, make me 2. Well, he just completely forgot and just kept putting hamburgers on the grill. So I just ate 6 hamburgers. I felt guilty because he was just like, oh, you like this? Yeah, they're good, Pat. Oh, you can eat them all? Yeah. And he put onions on them. I think I had a whole onion.
Did you used to eat 6 hamburgers?
I used to. Not anymore. I'm going to burst.
It's 6 o'clock.
All right, on that note, let's call the meeting to order. This is the October work session for the Mayor and City Council of the City of Frostburg. Roll call when you're ready.
Okay, Commissioner Donnie Carter.
Here.
By phone, Commissioner Nina Forsyth.
Here.
Commissioner Kevin Grove.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie.
Here.
By phone, and Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, we have several items for the council meeting to discuss tonight. Hayden has the first couple, so I'll turn it over to him.
Cool. So the first one, we had talked in months prior about our spare valve for up at Piney for when one of our good valves goes down, rebuilding that valve. Well, the quote to rebuild that valve came in at $38,000, and we did some digging, and we actually found a brand new valve for $28,256. So it's a savings of 10 grand.
Yeah, wow.
So that was my first one to propose the purchase of that valve. It's a ball valve instead of a cone valve. We call them Trunnion valves, but for $28,256. So that was my first one as our safety.
Keep going in that direction. You're doing well.
Yeah.
I do.
See if you can find one for 18.
Yeah, I saw the quote for the rebuild, but I was just like, that's too much. So
Yeah.
we started shopping around and found another one. So.
Excellent. Good work.
Thank you. So if that's all well and good, I'll propose that for next week. The second one is for the Centennial Hill water line, just for the labor and the equipment time for doing that line. It looks like we're going to do that line in April now, just because of material delays. So we're going to let Columbia come in, do the work, and then we'll come in April to do our line. But the low bid was Davey Winter, Winter's Construction. He came in at $149,000. The next highest bid was $158. Bid above that was $165. So all in the ballpark, and he was low bid. That's below our budget. We budgeted $250 total. Materials came in at $55. So we have a little bit of wiggle room if we run into any issues. So I'll ask for an acceptance of that bid next week. If there's any questions, I will be happy to talk.
No.
Is Columbia still planning on
Yes.
this fall?
Yes.
Or
Yep. So they're finishing in Cumberland now. As soon as they wrap up in Cumberland, they're coming here. So.
And Mr. Winter was agreeable to delaying the start
Yes.
till the spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Next one, paving, the paving contract change orders. So we didn't change anything with the actual paving contract itself. While the pavers were here, we had a couple things come up: burst water lines, sewer lines, catch basins, manhole replacements, and we had them come in and do the pavement around those repairs because we get the bulk discount with the contract price. So there will be a change order for the work they did to tack on to the extra contract. We actually might get a cost savings on the contract because we nixed part of First Street that we ended up not paving, so it probably will balance out to about the same contract price we originally had. I don't have the final numbers on the change order. Brendan Orr, who's the owner of Ameriseal, and I are still kind of talking about final numbers as far as quantities, but I'll definitely have it by next Thursday. And I'll try and get Elizabeth that number, that concrete number, as early as possible next week to send to you guys.
Okay.
The salt purchase agreement with MDOT, Emily set that up. Did she send you the actual contract, Elizabeth?
Yeah, it's right here.
Cool. And so that's the most competitive bid, lowest price. It came through. Who was the winning bid on that?
No, so this
The MDOT. Yeah, sorry.
this is the agreement that we have when we are not able. So we have the state bid salt contract that we will buy bulk salt from off of the state bid from Cargill or whomever it ends up being. This is for if there is an emergency and we run out of salt, this is so we can go to the salt shed on 36 and get salt out of it. So there's a maximum, salt shall not exceed $10,000, aggregate should not exceed $2,000. We've had an agreement like this in the past. We upped the numbers a little bit from like $7,000 and $1,800 to this.
Okay.
But
Typically, we only have to dip into that when we have those crazy freak storms like we did 2 years ago and Main Street was shut down. So, but it's typically we don't always have to do that. So.
Okay.
And then I think my last one is the plumber for the meter replacement program. I struggled for a long time digging up plumbers. Shades was on board to do it. And we were gonna go with them just because they had the history with the city and we were happy with them. However, we dug up another bid from a plumber named Leo Lease. He's licensed, fine. He does work in the county. He's been in the county forever. And he came in at half of the price of Shades. I guess he has a lot less overhead. And our guys, Jimmy Williams and Ray Race, talked to him. They're fine with him. They're ready to move ahead. So his price is $75 an hour, whereas Shades is $180 an hour. So I will propose that next week as well. And then hopefully we can get, he has a lot less work on his hands than Shades too. So hopefully we can get wrapped up with the entire meter program in a month or two after this. So.
and that one, do you expect that to stay below $10,000?
I think so, because Shades was just south of 10, and they covered almost 2/3 of the meters.
Okay.
So yeah.
So that won't be a resolution to award a contract because that's below the thresholds that you need to award contracts by resolution, but it will be a resolution for an ARPA project approved.
I think it's already approved.
It's already
I can double
approved.
check.
Okay, so maybe it doesn't need to be on there at all.
Okay.
Just thanks for the information.
Keep you updated. But yeah, that was a very pleasant surprise finding him. So
Okay, guess it's me. So back in March, I think we had talked about and signed this agreement with Wildan because they had an incentive program with Potomac Edison to replace the field lights at Sowers. You guys approved of ARPA funding for around $12,000 to cover the difference between what a POS would pay for and what that program was. Since they started, they found that they have to replace some arms and conduit, and it has to go through their electrical company, and that's going to be an increased cost of $9,100. So, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, we already signed the agreement to replace the lights, and we can't replace the lights without replacing the poles. So, yeah, it kind of puts us in a.
and I should say I recommended to them to replace the cross arms. I was the one who said if we're gonna pay for these lights, we should probably do the cross arms as well, because the cross arms that were there were 40 years old, or 30 years old, so, and they were wooden, so.
And then I guess staff would recommend
Hey,
just using.
Hayden,
Yep.
hey, the only question I had, I was reading that contract, and it said in there that they are not gonna do any of the repairs to the field, and they're not gonna put the fence back together. I'm just curious as to who is gonna do that.
I'm pretty sure Brian set that up on our end for our guys to take care of that. They've been working around the outside of the field, so they haven't even been in the field. In the fencing, our guys should be fine to just put back up. That should be
Okay.
nice and crack.
Okay.
So I'd probably recommend that we go with funding that difference with American Rescue Plan Act funding. Oh, okay, next item. So we heard from Community Development Block Grant, and they approved us for $400,000 in additional funding for the Childcare Center. Woohoo! With that, that still leaves a gap of $121,000. So that with our design that we've already allocated the ARPA money for, it would be a city contribution of a total 232,717. So staff would recommend moving forward with awarding the contract to the low bidder next week if you guys are agreeable.
I guess that's as close to 10%, so that's good. Yep.
Okay, very well.
Everybody okay?
Starting in the
Yeah.
spring.
Okay.
And all of that
Hope,
city contribution is the ARPA funds.
Right.
So.
correct. Hopefully before
Oh, really?
winter. At
Great.
least start with concrete and that kind of
Okay.
thing.
Good.
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 Thank you.
Okay, last month I mentioned to you about having a take-home vehicle policy. Chief Costello drafted this policy that just talks about, this is for city employees, not police officers. They have their own take-home vehicle policy. But it goes over, who gets a take-home vehicle. It's generally our supervisors in the water and street department or another employee that's functioning on an on-call basis. It is used, and the idea behind that is when they are called out in the middle of the night or on the weekend, they don't have to come in, go to the shop, and then respond. Oftentimes, especially in the water department, they just need to turn off the water at a house. Or in the sewer department, they need to just go and open a manhole, and then they can say, it's not our problem, it's yours. So this makes it a lot more convenient for those employees responding to the call. But then also our public works director has a take-home vehicle now, as he's responding to calls all hours outside of 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. The vehicles need to be properly equipped. It goes into the employee being responsible for the vehicle, ensuring that the way the vehicle is used is in the city's best interest, that if he does have or she has a passenger, there's reason for that passenger to be in the vehicle and it's not going on a date to the Texas Sizzler.
Just make mine well done.
And then just basic things like you can't put a presidential campaign or
Jeez,
a
wow,
sticker
yeah.
on the car, no drinking or using drugs in the vehicle.
Common sense.
Common sense things. It defines the taxable fringe benefit that some staff would be subject to when it's not an actual utility or police vehicle. That they just have to keep it clean, keep it accessible. If they're going to be on extended leave, that they return it to the city property, they maintain it, and what they do in the event of an accident. I have something wrong with the page numbering that I'll address, but I know why. Okay. But other than that, that's it. You can review that, but I'd ask for a resolution next week to approve that policy.
Sounds good.
As we work on developing the personnel manual, I expect there to be many develop additional policies just on how to handle things so our employees have resources available to them for different things that involve being a city employee. So it's good to have this under our belt. Next is related to the election. Last election in 2022, following the election and during the tallying exercise and then our, certifying the vote, there's just some procedural issues for the most part that came to light, either in conversations with the county election board administrator and just in our own processes. So unfortunately, there's minor changes, but it involves 2 charter amendments and an ordinance. State law, a charter amendment can only address one section of your code at a time now. It didn't used to be that way. So hence the need for 2 charter amendments and then the resolution. So I'll go over these with you. The first charter amendment is just changing the date of the election. It mistakenly said on the first Tuesday in June 2005 and every 2 years thereafter. Well, the elections have always been held on even years. That, I think, is a result of the change in government and then referendum year, and it just didn't get cleaned up properly.
Makes sense.
So it would change to get rid of 2005 and every 2 years thereafter, and change it to read in June, the first Tuesday in June in years ending in an even number. Any questions on that one? Okay, next one, second charter amendment, is regards to the secure delivery box. As you recall, we had placed the ballot delivery box in the police vestibule area. The way the charter read was that it was to be placed 14 days prior to the election. However, the way the code reads is that the ballots are to be mailed 35 to 25 days in advance of the election. So there was a problem that people were getting their ballots, but then they had to hold on to them before they cast their ballot. So what this does is it changes it from 14 days to 35 days. So as soon as those ballots are mailed, or maybe even before they're mailed, the ballot delivery box will be there and available.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any questions on that?
Nope, makes perfect sense.
Okay. And then a few charter amendments. Code ordinance amendments. So I'm going to go down to the marked up version. So the candidate filing date has historically been 50 days prior to the election. However, moving the mailing date from 35 days to 25 days prior to the election, that gave me and the election board and the ethics commission, when you file your forms, I have to have an ethics commission meeting scheduled for them to review everyone's filing forms. And then they approve the names to be placed on the ballot. Then the election board needs to meet to set the ballot. And then I need to work with the printer to make sure to get what the election board has approved to the printer. And so that was a lot to do in a 15-day window. So in talking with the election board and Michael Cohen, I just said, I really need just a few more weeks to make that happen. So Michael Cohen suggested just changing no later than 50 days to no later than March 20th, preceding the date of the election. If March 20th falls on a weekend or a holiday, this deadline shall be extended to the next business day.
Okay.
I personally prefer March 20th because I have to go through this very elaborate calendar exercise counting back from election day every year. So that's one less count back I have to do. Write-in candidates. Currently it says that write-in candidates can file up to no later than 25 days prior to the election. Again, with the mailings potentially starting as soon as 35 days prior to the election, and then, maybe someone gets their ballot 32 days prior to the election, they bring it back here. It allows someone to vote before they're even aware of a write-in candidate. So I think it makes sense to make write-in candidates deadline due the same day that before anyone can actually get a ballot and cast it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, that way, in the event of writing a candidate, does anyone contact them to file an ethics form?
They have to file. They have to do everything that any other candidate would do
Thank you.
and be certified to be on the ballot.
Okay.
But they just have more time. But then they have to campaign really hard to do that. And with our short election window, it's not like at the state level where you're filing in January or February for a November election. You're filing in March 20th for a June election. So the likelihood of it making sense for a write-in candidate isn't high, but it also, if a candidate were to die between March 20th and 35 days before the election, at least you could have a write-in candidate for the ballot too, so. Okay, and then something that was in the ordinance, it said that registered voters who did not receive or lost or damaged the ballot would have to apply for a replacement ballot no later than 7 days prior to the election. County elections advised us that they should be able to get a replacement ballot up to election day. So this language changes that. Registered voters who did not receive or lost a ballot or whose ballot was destroyed or otherwise rendered unusable for any reason may obtain a replacement ballot at City Hall upon the execution of an affidavit certifying the reasons why the replacement ballot is required. Before issuing a replacement ballot, the city administrator or my designee would ensure that the applicants are registered to vote. So we get a 90-day list that was what we used to do the mailing, and so that applicant would be cross-checked on that. And then every time a ballot, we don't just count the ballots, we make sure that before we even open the ballot, we make sure that that oath of voter envelope corresponds to a registered voter before the ballot is even put into contention, so. That's how voter fraud is prevented.
Very good.
And then a suggestion by the election board that was made after we initially went through this is adding, it previously said the ballots should be preserved for 22 months after the day of the election. That's the typical time frame for ballot retention. But because of us doing a mail-in only election, they suggested that the oath of voter envelopes are also retained for that period. So that has everyone's signature. They're kept separate from the ballots. And then lastly, just as a clarifying point, this has been added. Multiple ballots, if the city receives multiple ballots from the same voter, the first ballot received will be the only ballot counted. So, any questions, comments on any of that?
That makes sense.
So not changing the structure of anything, just procedurally and the dates a little bit. As you know, the charter process is different than the ordinance process. You would vote to approve the 2 charter amendments at your meeting next week, and then that has and then there will be 4 required notices in the paper for each charter amendment, and then there's a 50-day window for it to be petitioned to referendum, and if it is not petitioned to referendum in those 50 days, then they will go into effect. The ordinance, more common, be introduced on first reading. This public hearing would be set for the November meeting, and then you could vote to approve it on second reading, and then it would go into effect. Let's see how Michael wrote it. Sometimes it's immediately, and sometimes it's 20 days after immediately.
Okay.
Okay. Donnie and Adam, are you good on that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then last for the council meeting is 2 proclamations. Economic Development Week is the last week of October, I believe. So Maryland Economic Development Authority always asks for that. And then Arbor Day is usually in April, but you know, we can celebrate trees any month of the year. And we need to have an Arbor Day. I'm going to let Hayden read that on Thursday.
Because he loves trees as much as you do.
So the mayor and council do need to proclaim Arbor Day annually to continue your Tree City USA designation. And then working with the Shade Tree Commission, maybe next week or the following week, a tree planting of 1 tree will be scheduled, a low-key tree planting, but we'll do a tree planting to formally celebrate Arbor Day. So,
Okay.
thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Both Chief Costello and Bethany are going to talk about the parking metering situation. But I just wanted to put it on the record that everyone is on board, that the meter poles will not be removed.
Yes.
The meter poles serve several purposes. Probably most importantly, it allows the police department to bag meters in advance of events or funerals or construction. So they have no parking meter bags that they use. We would keep that regardless of what happens. The street department has removed all of the flagpole brackets. They are going to be painting them with a hopefully very durable spray, kind of like a
Coating?
rubber coating almost, to try and protect them. And then VOTEC is fabricating new flagpole holders for the city, and they will also be painted black. They're doing it for a fraction of the cost of the flagpole. There's only one flagpole bracket manufacturer in the country, it seems, and they're very expensive. So we're glad to support VOTEC and the students learning in their welding class, but also we're saving money. So it's, as long as everything comes in, my niece is the project manager. She's a senior in the welding program, so she's the one that's been organizing this with her teacher. But as long as they come in, as long as all the materials come in, they should be able to have them done by the end of the month so we can get them installed in advance of Veterans Day.
Nice.
So, and I think we've let the Legion know what's going on, so no one's worried about that. But I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that the meter poles weren't going anywhere. And then I don't think anyone has strong feelings about what happens to the actual meters, so I'll let Nick and Bethany chat about that.
Thank you very much. Would you like to go first or me?
You can go first.
Oh, well.
Because you're first in the discussion items.
Oh, okay, yes, thank you. Well, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. It's been a pleasure working with Bethany and Jamie upstairs on the meter project. So we checked with Oakland City and Bedford up in Pennsylvania, just as two areas we thought had eliminated their parking meters. It is confirmed that both did eliminate them. Both cities use 2-hour parking maximum signs. They have generally found it to be effective. They're not, the people I spoke with indicated that there are no problems in their city halls or municipal buildings. There's no real consensus, kind of like we have, there's no real consensus. There's no unanimity or just strong feeling either way about whether there should be meters or free parking or paid parking or no time limit or how long. It really depends a lot on the business and the personal views of the individual. There's generally no consensus, but they did get rid of their meters. They have been happy with 2-hour parking signs, both areas, for several years. They prevent abuse through a combination of sometimes business owners talk to their neighbors and talk to people. Other times the police will use chalk to mark parking spaces and see if people have moved or not, which was a past practice here for like 48-hour violations and abandoned vehicles and that sort of thing. There's some question about whether police departments today should be chalking the actual tire, but you could chalk the street around it or use photographs or witness statements, for lack of a better word. I mean, if a person's there and can attest that the vehicle's not moved, that should be good enough too, like a business owner and that sort of thing. I think there's I don't sense any real strong feelings so far from the business community. I know a while back the FBPA provided the city money to offset the loss of income to not enforce meters on small business Saturdays, so I took that as favoring no meter enforcement and elimination of meters. Some of the people we've just polled informally don't really have any desire to have parking meters per se, but they do want the posts, and I would reiterate that there was never any interest by anyone that I know of to get rid of the posts. We would just get rid of the meter heads and put an aesthetic decorative top that maybe whatever everybody wants maybe matches the lamppost aesthetic or something like that. Very helpful to us for parking control, for events and those sorts of things, and obviously the decoration and that. Probably the most practical thing I have to the really concrete thing for Frostburg is, in reality, the meters haven't worked for a couple of months. We really get no complaints. I mean, to my knowledge, I'm not sure if any of you do or the businesses, but there's been really no complaining. It's been working. The only thing is people ask in the Princess and stuff every time I go in there, we feed the meters, do we not? But there's really no concern or frustration, which I also take as a good thing. And in the evening, there are probably more cars parked after the meter enforcement times than at any other time, and we really don't get complaints about that either. The only real issue we have is at 7-Eleven, they call about people parking on their lot, taking up spaces and going to other businesses. Good thing that Frostburg's so busy, but that's the only negative that we've run into really. So, and I think, given the fact that they're not working, that we're not really getting a lot of complaints, we're not hearing a lot of things, I would suggest we look in the direction of getting rid of the meters, doing 2-hour parking signs, maybe do a public meeting for input. We did have one about 2 years ago for parking and nobody came, which is fine. Deidre came and we were here, and I took that as that there wasn't really a lot of strong feeling either way. We could do another meeting, but the reality is the meters aren't working now, so we're kind of doing our pilot program now. And if we just clarified and did the signs, we usually don't have paid parking in December either. No real issues there. So
Kind of hard to put coins on them when you're stinging.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So I would suggest we're kind of doing it anyway. Maybe we could get rid of the meter heads, ride it out for a while, and if it's a big problem, we have to buy new meters anyway, so we could just buy them then, give it a couple months and sort of test the waters. It might be able to help us. There is sometimes some abuse of vehicles with handicap placards that stay for extraordinary periods of time. It may be easier to address that too with marking tires or not really distinguishing every space, whether the handicap placard makes a difference. Maybe have designated handicap spaces for a longer period or something like that, but that has been an issue for some businesses. So just a lot of
and that was going to be my concern because,
yeah.
I mean, I could care less about whether we're collecting money or not on the meters. It's, being a downtown business owner, the abuse of the handicap tags downtown all day, every day is ridiculous. I mean, and we don't have the manpower to have to send a cop out there every 2 hours to check the stuff. But it's in the block that I'm in, us and the Princess, there are cars there 8 hours a day, every day, and that's the big concern that I would have as a business owner. So.
Well, and once we put 2-hour limit signs up, it would be the same as if somebody with a handicap tag parked in a no parking here to corner, they can't do that. Once we put up 2-hour signs, they would be limited to 2 hours just like everybody else.
Yes, sir, that makes sense to me too. Yeah, if there was an issue with handicap accessibility, I would suggest we could designate a few, space maybe on each block or something. We could check into if there are rules on that or not, but yeah, I would agree that would eliminate that problem, because there is some abuse there with vehicles kind of sitting there all day with the handicap placard, and that is a problem that's a little hard to address right now.
I think our only handicapped reserved parking right now is in front of
The Legion.
Sandstone, right?
The Legion, isn't there one?
There's no signs
Oh, I
there.
thought there
I think
was.
it's just Sandstone Medical Care because they get people in wheelchairs pretty frequently. So
Yeah, there would be probably some interplay with the State Highway Administration since they generally regulate the signage and traffic control on Main Street.
last I talked to him, the white line over, including the sidewalks, is ours to do with as we please, as long as we don't mess with speed limits and stuff
Good.
like that.
Good.
Did Bedford or Oakland have any problems with business owners parking all day in front of their businesses?
They didn't really say specifically that was a problem. I did talk about generally all the types of concerns, and there was no real consensus there either. And we've experienced that. It depends sometimes on the business. I think it depends on the type of business, what type of traffic they have in and out, whether it's more of a service or sales of goods or food or pickup. I think it really varies. We've had some business owners at different times that have been very strong about wanting meters enforced, and then others who think it deters their business. Other business owners will pay the tickets for their customers, which is probably counterproductive to the business, but tries to promote downtown. And then others don't want them at all because it's mostly their employees. that tends to be a little more in areas where the parking lots are far away and their employees have to walk a long distance to get there. It really varies, I think. I would guess it's the same thing at Bedford and Oakland, probably a mixed opinion.
You're up.
Well, all along, it really just varies by city, the economic impact, and, you know, it really depends a lot on the size of the police force and how much manpower do you have to enforce 2-hour parking or go around and chalk meters. And I know that we're trying to shy away, we don't really want the kiosks. That's kind of the direction that a lot of municipalities are going in. I personally am not in favor of that. I just don't think that with our topography and other variables that would be a good direction for us to go in. But I agree with Nick. I think a pilot program, you know, if you all wanted to set the time frame that we try it out without meters, and like Chief said, if we decide that we need to go back to them, then we'll have to buy them anyway. So.
Donnie, Adam?
I'm good with it.
I'm fine, yeah.
Do you want us to just do it? Do you want to do a survey? Do you want to do a
No.
public meeting? Just
Do
do
it.
it.
Yeah, I think so.
Just do it.
Okay.
Thing I'd like to say is that in my travels here this year, I've noticed a number of towns, some not that far away, that some are using meters, some aren't, but something I think would be a very big help is hash marks, especially with taking meters out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
This,
It's funny you say that, Bob, because like with them not teaching parallel parking anymore.
right.
Like, it's amazing to me how these people park on the street. They can't even get out of their car because they pull right up against the meter with the door.
Exactly. I mean,
They'd
and-
rather crawl across the seat.
right. And I mean, with the post still going to be there, Donnie, that problem's not going to change itself. You know, so, but no, they taken a picture, I'll show it to them. But up in Johnstown, I was really amazed. It looked like they had just freshly been done. And they actually also designate where the end of the car is supposed to be on a corner. And so, or if there's a driveway access and stuff, so, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think many years ago, didn't the
We
state
had 'em.
do that
Yes,
once?
yes. But if,
Once they wore out, they never,
but if we're from the white line,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not a question that we couldn't do it or have our guys do
We
it.
can do it, yeah.
Okay, so.
Just make sure.
So we can do it on Main Street?
He said, yeah, Hayden said if it's a white line to the sidewalk, it's ours to regulate.
He'll check.
Okay.
Yeah.
He'll check though.
Let me see if I can find the picture.
I'll get it in writing
Yeah.
before we, so.
Just do it in the middle of the night. Never mind.
Please.
Yeah, I did take a picture. Why did I do that?
While somebody's talking to the state road, can they talk to them about coming and picking up that big hunk of whatever it is right in front of the Legion that fell off the road? Like, I guess it's part of the crosswalk that they had there.
I can just have our guys pick that up, I don't know.
It's like,
Hayden said he can get our guys to get it.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll just have that, I'll just swing by it, I can grab it.
Okay, we're good with that.
okay.
Thank you all.
Bethany?
Right. Back in July, you all may remember that I had let you know that I was pursuing some grant funding through the Appalachian Forest National Heritage Area to update the signage at Glendenning. We have received notice that we were awarded that grant in the amount of $16,250. And this is just a little handout that shows you what we applied for. I have it, this may not be a fully comprehensive list, but it gives a very good overview of what we are proposing. So the large majority of it will be interpretive signage to highlight a lot of our natural features and habitats that we have at Glendenning. And then it would also include a full range of signage for the edible arboretum, which currently has no signage whatsoever. Well, it does have signage, but it was made by a Boy Scout very kindly. He took that upon himself to make that for us. It also includes wayfinding signage. You can see the locations of those there. And then it also includes updated field markers, playground markers, basketball court markers, and fresh paint touch-ups on the trail markers at the entry points for the trail. So I just wanted to give you that quick update.
I like it.
And they would be coordinated, so you know it's all part of the same system, part of
Yes.
the city of Frostburg.
And if, if Brian wanted to, I've been working with Brian to kind of hash out what we want this project to look like, but it could serve as a starting point for kind of citywide parks branding. So could be phase one, but I figure we'll tackle the biggest park first.
Right. Well, like we talked about, I mean, so that there's some uniformity, that people know this is official sign, it's not something that, yeah, right. And where we have signs that really don't mean anything anymore, maybe we can start getting them down.
Yes, and I do have a Google Earth map that is very interactive that shows the exact location of the existing signs, has photos of the existing signs, and then also notes where we're proposing either replacement or installation of brand new. So I would be happy to send that out to you all after this.
Okay.
Bethany, I don't know if it's part of it or not, but I know a lot of the signs that identify each field, like Field 5, or, they're kind of small too. So
Yes.
if you could make those bigger, that would be great.
Yes, that is part of the plan, and so I've spoken with Brian, and I didn't know this until I talked with him, but all of our playing fields are pesticide free, so we are going to be highlighting that. So that will be included on the increased footprint of the field markers
Good,
as well.
Safe playing surface.
Yes.
I believe that is all staff have for you this evening. So if there's anything else you'd like us to address?
We have, we're in the thick of planning for the Solar Saturday, November 18th at City Place. We have 2 developers and 1 community solar person lined up as well, and we're in the process of lining up homeowners, maybe business owners too who've done solar. It's an informational thing for people, because I've had people come up to me in the last year asking me about solar, and I figure it's time for another information session so people can get started on that. So just heads up, it's November 18th, which is a couple days after our November City Council meeting, so maybe that's when we should announce it. But
Okay.
stuff will be going out on Facebook, and we can maybe put it up on the city website as well when we have more of the details hashed out.
Very good. Thank you.
And the Green Team is a sponsor of the event.
Very good. Adam, Donnie, you have anything to go to the order?
No.
Other than Adam wants to feel much better.
Oh, man.
Yeah, really.
All right.
I have one quick one.
Yeah, hey.
At some point coming down the pipe with Frost Avenue, just making up a plan for what we want to do there long term, I would like to do a little bit of community outreach before we make any decisions there. So in the next maybe 2 to 3 months, I'm going to put together a meeting sometime in the evening where the public can come, voice their opinions, provide a couple alternatives, X, Y, and Z. Just that'll be coming down the pipe. So.
If you wanted to collaborate
Yeah,
on
that's
with the
gonna be a
Historic
good
District
idea.
Commission.
I think we talked about that maybe a couple of years ago too. With getting everybody that lives there involved in the decision making.
Yeah, because that'll give me some direction on at least how to start designing for that project. So.
Well, just count the bricks.
I'll have the intern on that.
All right. else has anything, we're adjourned, folks. Thank you all.
Thank you.